So I'm going to read a short passage from this book. You can't see it. It's called Beauty, the Invisible Embrace by John O'Donohue. And this is the very first chapter. It's the beginning of the first chapter. It's called The Call of Beauty. I was with a friend out on Loch Carib, the largest lake in the west of Ireland. It was a beautiful summer's day. Time had come to rest in the silence and stillness that presided there. The lake slept without a ripple. A gray-blue haze enfolded everything. There was no division anymore between the earth and sky. Reaching far into the distance, everything was suffused in a majestic blue light. The mountains of Connemara seemed like pile upon pile of delicate blue. You felt you could almost reach out your hand and pull them toward you. No object protruded anywhere. Trees, stones, fields, and islands had forgotten themselves in the haze of blue. Then suddenly a harsh flutter as near us the lake surface split, and a huge cormorant flew from inside the water and struck up into the air. Its ragged black wings and large awkward shape were like an eruption from the underworld. Against the finely woven blue everywhere, its strange form fluttered and gleamed in absolute black. She had the place to herself. She was the one clear object to be seen. And as if to conceal the source as she soared, she left her shadow thistling the lake surface. This was an event of pure disclosure, a sudden epiphany from between the worlds. The strange beauty of the cormorant was a counterpoint to the dreamlike delicacy of the lake and the landscape. Sometimes beauty is that unpredictable. A threshold we had never noticed opens, mystery comes alive around us, and we realize how the truth is full of concealed beauty.
Thank you for that, Sushmita. And welcome everyone tonight to the gathering, listening to the Earth's Dream. And I want to start just by holding that question for a moment, because it's kind of a strange concept to think of listening to the Earth's Dream. And I want to ask, what would that mean? What would it be like to listen to the Earth's Dream, and how is it possible? First, I guess we would have to recognize that the Earth is alive, that it's a subject, and that it might have something that it wants to say. So we can imagine that if the Earth dreams, that perhaps it dreams like we do, that it dreams about its activities and it dreams about what it wants to be and what its hope is. Perhaps it dreams about where it's hurt and how it needs to heal. But how would we know what the Earth's dream is? There's probably a lot of different ways the Earth could speak and tell us its dream. But perhaps one way is actually by showing up in our own dreams. And an image has come to me of how dreaming might work. And there's this flip that we can do where we're used to saying that we have dreams. We say, I had a dream. But we can flip that over and we can say that what if dreams have us? And when we flip it over that way, the image that comes to my mind is of every night, just this, millions of grains of pollen, like just scattering all through space. And so some of those grains just sort of land in us, as we dream. So we dream about our own lives, but we also pick up on anything and everything, and particularly perhaps what our very earth home might be wanting to say. So tonight we have already seen a video of the ocean. We heard a story that Sushmita shared from John O'Donohue. I'm going to share a dream that was my own dream. And then we'll listen to some more music and watch another slideshow with images that reflect parts of the dream that I'll share. And I will read the dream a couple of times, maybe back to back, or maybe once and then watch the video and then read it again. And it's a dream that has landscape. And so the question that we're going to bring tonight is simply, what happens in us when we imagine this landscape? And if the landscape has a message, and we might all hear it in different ways, what might that be? And, I want to emphasize that we don't have to have answers to any of these questions. In fact, we may have a thought that seems unrelated to the question, or a feeling. And I just invite us all to hold whatever shows up for us around the dream. And then we'll offer a time if anyone wishes to share something about their experience of any of these offerings. That time will be there, or we could sit in silence together for a couple of minutes and contemplate together. So let me share the dream now. And my dream, I will refrain from saying my dream. This dream is called Bear's Ears. And here is the dream. I have become a grandmother to two young boys. I've become a grandmother to two young boys. I am standing in my daughter's kitchen when I know this. The scene shifts, and I am in a dark, barren landscape. I see large, dark, black rock on the side of a road in sedimentary layers like shale. I know that this rock is Bear's Ears. It's just something I know when I look at the rock. I look out over the landscape. The sun is not out. The day is cloudy. There is no vegetation growing anywhere. The dark, rocky landscape extends out in all directions. I feel energized. I look ahead on the road, and an SUV-type vehicle is driving carefully on a narrow road along a ledge. Walking, I follow the road around the corner and discover a round pool of water that is tucked into the rock. I know that one of the boys has been in or will go into the pool. Why don't we listen and watch the video, and then I will read my dream again and then open us up for any discussion. Does that sound okay, Sushmita? That feels good? Okay, let's do that. Here's the dream one more time. Bear's ears. I have become a grandmother to 2 young boys. I am standing in my daughter's kitchen when I know this. The scene shifts, and I am in a dark, barren landscape. I see large, dark, black rock on the side of a road in sedimentary layers like shale. I know that this rock is Bear's Ears. I look out over the landscape. The sun is not out. The day is cloudy. There is no vegetation growing anywhere. The dark, rocky landscape extends out in all directions. I feel energized. I look ahead on the road, and an SUV-type vehicle is driving carefully on a narrow road along a ledge. Walking, I follow the road around the corner and discover a round pool of water that is tucked into the rock. I know that one of the boys has been in or will go into the pool. End of dream. So with these offerings in mind, let's just all take a moment to just take some breaths and check in with ourselves around where in our bodies we feel these offerings, what's coming up for us. Just take notice. And when, if any of us would like to share with the group, feel free to share your experience in this time.
Go ahead, Susan. Susie. You have to unmute.
Thanks. Thanks for the invitation to talk about where I feel it. I feel it in my heart chakra and my third eye. I think the third eye is being prompted by her knowing. She knows she's a grandmother. She knows that she has 2 grandsons. And my heart, it's such a beautiful thought. And the video was exquisite. It made me feel, especially because of the topic about the Earth Stream, that this was a Native American. Certainly this music and the sound of the I don't know what they called, bells, gave that impression also. But when you first talked about her being a grandmother, even though you categorized it that it was 2 children, I felt she was a Native American grandmother and that she really understood the earth. So it was a journey. Thank you so much for this.
Geneva, you have your hand up.
Thank you so much for this. I had a question, and that was, it was a very specific name for the geography. And this place has been contentious and threatened and vandalized. And here you are becoming a grandmother and fearing for safety of your part of life, of your family, and the continuation of your family, and experiencing the majesty of this wonderful place, which should be giving so much succor and comfort and majesty and awe, and knowing in your subconscious that it needs protection as well. So I thank you so much for that. As a strict urban dweller, when I look outside my window, I see Greenwood Cemetery and the Verrazano Bridge. And I just wonder about my own responsibility, and thanking you so much, because my dreams are always of universities. For whatever reason, it's a built environment that has infused my subconscious. And I'm so grateful to you for sharing this beautiful, strong, and fragile place. So thank you again.
Thank you both so much for your sharing. And it really underscores, at first I wasn't even sure I would include the first line, about being a grandmother, but in my heart, I just so much wanted to put it in there. And I do feel that this does feel to me like grandmother, it's grandmother. In my waking life, I'm not a grandmother. But I have grandmother, and we all do, in that sense of responsibility, particularly for our young boys. I feel that, and for the earth. It feels like how we can raise up our boys, and then of course, in the earth's well-being, are so connected. And thank you all for your comments.
It's a beautiful, beautiful dream, and it works so well with everything else today. It's kind of magical. And as you were inviting us, Darby, to think about in what ways does the earth speak to us, I remembered there's another piece from John O'Donohue that I have loved, and it's on my phone. I always carry it with me. It's one of those pieces that's always with me. It's not very long, so I'm going to read it because I think it really speaks again to the same energy. So this is from, I think it is from Anamkara. This is what he says here. In your clay body, things are coming to expression and to light that were never known before. Presences that never came to light or shape in any other individual. To paraphrase Heidegger, who said, man is a shepherd of being, we could say man is a shepherd of clay. You represent an unknown world that begs you to bring it to voice. Often the joy you feel does not belong to your individual biography, but to the clay out of which you were formed. At other times, you will find sorrow moving through you, like a dark mist over a landscape. This sorrow is dark enough to paralyze you. It is a mistake to interfere with this movement of feeling. It is more appropriate to recognize that this emotion belongs more to your clay than to your mind. It is wise to let this weather of feeling pass. It is on its way elsewhere. We so easily forget that our clay has a memory that preceded our minds, a life of its own before it took its present form. Wanted to put that in this container. And in your dream, if I have to pick one image that really stands out for me, it is that round pool that is tucked among the rocks. It's just such a beautiful image of safety, containment. And it's available to this young boy this future humanity. I don't know, to cleanse him, to bless him, to baptize him. It's really, really beautiful, that image.
I'm struck by in what you just read, Sushmita, about how the emotion belongs to the body and that our responsibility is to let it move. And that was, when we were watching that first video of the ocean and the waves, I was just so struck by just constant change, from moment to moment, no wave ever crashing, quite the same. And this change, and then the contrast that with the story of the stillness, everything seems to be melding together. And then the cormorant, if I said that right, just breaks it, and breaks out. And you have this singular bird breaking out, and but just and even in the rock, that seems so steady, and yet even that really ultimately is also moving. So yeah, thank you. I'm so glad that you did add that piece.
Yeah, Geneva.
I'm just so struck by how the earth that we're experiencing through the videos and through the writing is the earth that we are familiar with. And I'm really questioning myself right now because I feel like I'm abdicating my responsibility for preserving what's left of that earth. We have fires, we have heat waves, we have droughts, we have floods. We brought this upon ourselves. So I'm thinking about that, but I'm also wondering, what was that SUV doing there? and that it was on a narrow road. So it could have plunged from one side to the other. Does that make sense? I just I'm feeling a sense of real relief and calm looking at the images and hearing the beautiful words and reflecting on the dream. And I guess what it's saying is we'll be okay. But I also feel like I should be doing something that I'm not doing at all to make sure that this legacy is preserved. And I am not. I am blasting my air conditioner. I've got all kinds of electricity on. I'm confused, but that's all I'm going to say.
We hear you. We hear you. But remember that you're also looking out at the Greenwood Cemetery. And that is an amazing experiment in and of itself.
Yes, it was one of the first parks so that people could come and experience the country when they were in mourning. And I feel that for myself. I walk there quite often. I'm not sure if all of you have been there, but it's quite a wonderful place, a place of comfort and a place of history. And it's also an arboretum where they are conserving all of those plants that I'm not doing anything to help, although I do have a tree there that I have a plaque on. There were two gentlemen at one point who who work at the cemetery, and I called them frantically on my cell phone because a mother duckling had dropped her babies inside of a sewer grate by one of the lakes. And the gentleman had to come and stick their arms through the grate and pull the ducklings up one by one. And so the plaque on the tree reads, "To the Friends of Greenwood Wildlife." So, as urban dwellers, we don't have access to these wide open spaces unless it is a quote unquote vacation. We don't live in those spaces anymore. So how do we bring them into ourselves? Do we do what Darby does? I guess we dream of them.
Mhm.
I'm going on and on. I'm going to mute myself.
And we call on people to save the baby ducks, right?
Yes, I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Just going to say that.
And we show up. We're one of two people who show up for the conversation about listening to the Earth Stream.
Yeah, and it's interesting, I've kind of thought about this quite a lot, is how when we blame ourselves for what we are not doing, we do less. We do even less. Because blame has a way of kind of contracting us. But instead, if we focus on the ducklings that were saved because of that phone call, then our heart opens. So I kind of hold that. And Jennifer, one of the images that you brought up that really kind of made me stop and think is the SUV. You are right that the SUV is the only kind of non-natural object in the entire plethora of images we offered today. And in some ways, I don't know, you guys, you people can kind of comment on this, but the starkness of the SUV is actually not different from that cormorant coming out of the lake. That sort of sudden, I don't know, sudden explosion. Geneva, at this point, because there are so few of us, you don't need to raise your hand. You can just speak up. Go ahead.
I wonder if that is up from before. So I'll speak. But Jennifer, if you want to speak, I can wait.
Why don't you go ahead? You go ahead, Susie.
So,
Susie.
thanks. So, the SUV also struck me. It's an image of being on the precipice, which is where we are with the balance, the climate change. It's a slippery slope. And I think as far as our responsibility, the one thing that I know that I can make an impact, a personal impact, even though it's small, is how do I handle my trash and what do I have as trash? So I really try to limit my use of plastic, buying things in plastic, a glass all the way when possible kind of woman, and being responsible about recycling, reusing, repurposing. So thanks, Jennifer, for bringing that up.
Oh, what I wanted to ask Darby, when I didn't realize I was muted and I was that for a long period of time before I started dreaming almost exclusively about teachable moments in universities, classes, workshops, whatever. Every single night I dream about this now. But I dreamed about locomotion. And so it would be either a vehicle, or it would be a bicycle, or it would be a train, or it would be a plane. And what's interesting to me about your imagery is that you are watching it, you're not in it. So I wonder what that brings up for you.
Yeah, that's really funny, because I was just taking in for myself, which I haven't yet, in the mention of the SUV, that I'm on foot in the dream and I feel energized. So the SUV is the driver has to be very careful, to stay on the road. And I can't help but note that SUVs are gas guzzlers, But wow, I mean, when I think about my feeling in the dream in that landscape, it's not frightening. It's not concerning that there's no vegetation. It is just really energizing to be there. And I feel like I'm really just drawing the energy from the landscape. And I hadn't really noticed that before. So I really appreciate this attention given to this. And I also, when I just thought of the letters SUV, I think of how similar they are to sun. And then we have UV rays. We have the dark black earth that soaked up the sun.
Where was the kitchen?
The kitchen was just, it's just one of those dream things where I'm in the kitchen and then I shift out, and I don't know. It's not a familiar kitchen to me, but I'm in a kitchen in the very first scene.
And you're in your daughter's kitchen.
It's my daughter's kitchen. Yes. And I suddenly know that, I'm a grandmother, to two boys.
I find that really beautiful, because kitchens are where mothers hand down their secrets to their daughters. And yet you have two grandsons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kitchen is also the place where alchemy happens.
Yeah.
We take what is inedible and we convert it into something that can be eaten and digested and metabolized.
Mm-hmm.
So what a wonderful place to start this journey from.
Yeah.
And what is that legacy that I'm cooking up for the generation that's to come, that's young, and that's male? I think it's not an accident. It's even doubled.
Yeah.
It's two boys.
Yeah.
Because I think many of us have been talking about, how does sacred masculinity look like? Because we've talked so much about toxic masculinity for such a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But if we do not have the divine feminine that's rising, balanced by sacred masculine, we're again going to be unbalanced.
So what does it look like?
Good question.
I know the dream tells us that it is a boy who's ready to go and swim in that round lake that's tucked among the rocks. He is learning from grandmother.
What comes up for me, though, is that he's a risk taker.
Can we hear the dream one more time, maybe?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I was just reflecting on how the rock tells me that it's bear's ears. And there's, of course, two different ways we can take that, as the BEAR, and there is the place, the Native American land that is bear's ears. And then, of course, there's the BARE, bear's ears. And right now, as I'm really just feeling my body in the landscape, it's the latter. It's bare. It's the bare landscape. But that seems so I don't know, incongruent, it seems like, with what we think we would want landscape to be like, because we want it to be full of vegetation and growing, and that's going to make us feel, in other words, I feel like I'm not supposed to feel the way I do, but I do feel that way. So I am listening to the bare landscape and the gray day and the sense of energy I'm getting. Normally I get energy from the sun. I love the sun. Yes, I would be happy to read the dream again and see. We have 7:52, so we do have a few more minutes. Bear's ears. I have become a grandmother to 2 young boys. I am standing in my daughter's kitchen when I know this. The scene shifts, and I am in a dark, barren landscape. I see large, dark black rock on the side of a road in sedimentary layers like shale. I know that this rock is Bear's ears. I look out over the landscape. The sun is not out. The day is cloudy. There is no vegetation growing anywhere. The dark, rocky landscape extends out in all directions. I feel energized. I look ahead on the road, and an SUV-type vehicle is driving carefully on a narrow road along a ledge. Walking, I follow the road around the corner and discover a round pool of water that is tucked into the rock. I know that one of the boys has been in or will go into the pool.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation.
I just realized something, that it's cliffs of shale. And aren't shale where we find a lot of fossils?
Yes.
So maybe at some point water had carved all of that.
Yeah, and sedimentary rock used to be living things once upon a time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that also. And I'm really struck by the fact that in the dream ego knows that one of the boys has gone into the water or will go into the water. What about the other boy?
That's a good question.
And if those 2 boys are part of my psyche as the dreamer, what does that say about part of me who's going to take on, who's going to respond to the call, and one part that's going to not?
One part is back in the kitchen, learning how to cook.
Yeah.
I'm a master chef.
Having those secrets passed down. What is the process when you have a dream? Do you write it down right away? Do you remember it during the day?
Well, in general, the recommendation is, and this works for me, is when I wake up in the morning and I know I had a dream, I try not even to change my position. So I stay in the same position and I rehearse the dream to myself. Like I tell it to myself. And then I get up and write it. Because I know if I change my position, I would lose a lot.
Does anyone else have repeated dreams of imagery?
I used to when I was a child, and the last time I did the dream workshop, I don't remember my dreams unless I set an alarm that wakes me up. So that's why I'm so curious about the process.
I wonder why they're buried in you.
What did you say?
Wonder why they're so buried for so many years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little disconcerting.
Oh.
I used to have very vivid dreams, and yes, they would repeat. They were colorful and a lot of motion.
Mhm. Maybe you'll have one tonight.
Maybe I'll set my alarm so I can remember it. I'm sure I'm dreaming, right? I'm sure
Yes.
I'm dreaming. I just can't retrieve them. But I also, unfortunately, hit the ground running when I get up in the morning.
Yeah, that's always the problem for me. If I don't take that time to write it down, it's like mist, just disperses.
But it
And-
sounds like you remember it, and I have no recollection.
So for me, alarm is actually a killer
Uh-huh.
because, so I have to naturally wake up to remember the dream. And I go through, actually, it's very interesting. I go through almost like cycles. So for a period, I won't dream. And then I would start having a lot of images that are disjointed, make no sense. And I would wake up very tired.
Mhm.
And that would go on for a while. And I've learned that that's my psyche kind of ramping up. And it's not yet making a story that the conscious mind can make sense.
Mhm.
So I just stay present, and then I will have 1, 2, 3 big dreams. And then it'll kind of, again, I'll have a period of no dreams. So I've kind of learned that that's how my psyche, that's my rhythm. And I think everybody has different rhythms. Does Darby want to speak to this?
I don't have anything really, I think, to add to what you've already said. All that's really true for me too. I've just come out of a time of not remembering dreams, and now I'm remembering them again. And it just seems to be a cycle. Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
anyone else do Artist's Way morning pages?
I
No.
have done it in the past, but I don't do it now. I do other morning practices, but not that.
Because having the notebook right by your bed
Mhm.
and
Yes.
where you can find it.
Yeah, I keep it by my bed, hoping. And why do we dream?
Yeah.
Why do we dream?
Yeah.
Can we take that one, Sushmita?
Do you want to?
The scientist amongst us.
What was that?
Sushmita is the scientist amongst us.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah, but
Yeah, we
it's
might.
more than science. I mean, it's really different levels of. So some of it. So there's a school of thought that'll say, oh, it's just processing your daily experiences or your weekly experiences, and there may be some truth to that. But I think both of us, Darby and I, are strong believers that this is the way our unconscious parts speak to us. This is the language. Or you can even say, like, I don't know, the right brain tries to communicate to the left brain. And in fact, in the Jungian dream world, one of the popular sayings, and it's said with in a half joking way, like the least reliable point of view in a dream is that of the dream ego. So the part that looks like you, because that's the closest to consciousness. So that has agenda.
Oh my goodness.
So Darby, which was the closest part to you? Which was the dream ego?
Well, I am in the dream. I'm in the dream walking. But to also to answer the question, I would add that I really think, dreams serve an evolutionary purpose for all of us. Like, we're constantly reaching for the new, the creative, our growth edge. How can we heal? How can we be creative? What's our task? how do I handle specific life situations? And that's all just showing up, all the time with clues about how our mind body system knows more than our conscious ego can know. And so those clues are included, in our dreams. I want to share just one more thing. I know we're about out of time, but I'm really so grateful for this time, because I just had this major aha that I'm planning a trip to Ireland with some friends, and we want to go to John O'Donoghue's land. And so I've been looking at some videos and things, and he lived at this place called the Burren, which I'm already aware is sounds so much like barren, and it is largely barren. And it's so interesting to me that, I'm going to this, I would have thought I would have wanted to be with the green and the sheep and but no, I'm going to go to this rocky landscape. And this is so not like me. I just have to tell you guys, this is so not like me. So maybe this dream has prepared me to love something barren, because I would have thought, oh no, put me in the forest, whatever. So anyway, I just really am grateful for this.
Maybe we're just across the pond in Scotland.
Pardon me? Say that again?
Maybe you were across the pond in Scotland.
Maybe.
Bairns means children.
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
Yes.
Ah. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's Irish Gaelic for children. Bairn.
Ah.
And Scottish as well. Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Thank you.
Have a great trip.
Thank
you
you.
renting an SUV?
No, thank goodness we're not. We are not going to have no vehicle for us. It'll be a train. That's it. Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
All right. So it's 8:03. Why don't we check out with a word or phrase?
Yeah.
And so carries the energy for us into the week.
Mm-hmm.
Companionship.
Fascinated.
The round pool.
Energized by the bear.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank
all
you.
so much.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so